Good afternoon, everybody. This is Ray from People Matters, and we're back with another exciting session today. So, the webcast today is brought to you in partnership with Aon, and our topic for today is leveraging technology to optimize your compensation and benefits process. So, here's what and shifts in compensation and benefits the Rewards Technology Trends Report by Aon and People Matters. We'll also look at some of the roadblocks and concern areas with respect to tech adoption in HR and how technology can act as an enabler in optimizing your compensation and benefits process. So we're joined by two experts today, Satish KB, who's a senior director at Flipkart. So with over 14 years of experience, Satish heads the of HR Flipkart, including total rewards, compensation and benefits, performance management, employer branding, and people analytics. We also have Nakshatra Bhatt, who's Aon senior consultant, and he's also the Remlink geography lead. Nakshatra manages the portfolio for Remlink, and he has over 7 years of experience. And his key solution areas include reward strategy, compensation benchmarking, and job evaluation and variable pay design. So we have saved time for you to ask questions at the end of this webcast. So for those of you who are joining live, you can simply submit your questions at any time using the chat feature, the Q&A section at the right-hand side of your screen. And we will try to respond to as many questions as time allows. So we have an exciting topic ahead of us. So without any Satish and Nakshatra to take over. Over to you.
Thank you, Jerry. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nakshatra. I am a part of the Aon Rewards team. Thank you for the introduction. So without wasting any further time, I will get into the presentation, the research findings which we have done. So how we went about it and what we were targeting in this survey is that we were trying to understand how the technology space is transforming and how organizations are perceiving it. With this, we went out to, with partnership with the People Matters, we went out to a bunch of participants, some things. Just give me a second while I do this. I hope my screen is visible.
Yeah.
In the survey, we had around 100 participants. When we looked at the cut of the participants and to ensure the diversity, we looked at two parameters. First was size. When we spoke about size, we looked at more about the number of employees in the organization, and we had around 27% of the organizations which were less than 500 people headcount, and overall close to sorry.
Just can you go on the slideshow mode? Just the slideshow. Just press that option on the PowerPoint.
Okay, I have moved to slideshow. Have we moved there?
So we can see the screen.
Can you screen?
Yeah, but we can also see sort of the slides at the left-hand side. So maybe if you press the slideshow button, I think the whole screen will cover. Is this better? Clear? All right, fine. If it's clear, I think it's fine. We can go on.
No, have we moved to the slideshow? Because I am on the slideshow mode.
So there is this small option, just I think at the bottom right. There is an option to, yes, right there.
Is it visible, Jerry?
Yeah, it is visible. Yeah.
We have moved to the slideshow, right?
We haven't really moved to the slideshow, but I think if it's clear. Okay, I think you okay. All right, yeah, we can carry on. I think this is good.
Okay, so the 100 participants, we viewed them from two different views. First was basis the number of employees which they came to, and close to 75% of the organizations were less than 5,000 employees who we surveyed. From an industry perspective, we had a mix of across industries. We had manufacturing heavy industries, both from a consumer side and the hardcore manufacturing side, that formed close to 45% of the participants. And the financial institutes, hardcore services, and high-tech industry was the other 55%. So we went into a few questions where we tried to understand as to what are the top HR technology priorities for the organizations. With the shift in the entire technology space in the last few years and the pace at which the technology space is moving, we saw that most of the organizations identify a priority of leveraging technology in a way with which they can empower their managers, and clearer communication around their overall HR agenda, specifically from a rewards and an EVP point to the employees. Also, one of the major factors for an employee to work in an organization has been their growth in development. With that in mind, L&D and a focus on leveraging technology to facilitate L&D has been critical. Uh, with a diverse workforce being employed by majority of the organizations, and this diversity is not just referring to the typical gender diversity or diversity around various orientations, with the location diversity also coming in, managing workforce which is spread across the country and sometimes spread across the globe. So supporting that diverse workforce has also been a major HR technology priority area for the organizations. Uh, when we look at how has these prioritizations and the focus on the HR technology impacted the budgets which are being allocated specifically for that. So we realize that more than 80% of the organizations are identifying this as a specific area where they want to allocate budgets for and have concentrated spends on. Within that, in this current year, we have seen a 55% of the organizations saw growth in the kind of budgets which have been allocated for HR technology, while a decrease is less than 10%, 20% only. When we looked at the next question was more around understanding as to what are the major challenges which organizations are facing between the current state of technology and where they want to be. So one of the major issue which has come out is that organizations are willing to have a desired completely automated, fully automated technology platform, while the challenge they face is in actually implementing it. So if you will look at the table given below, you will see that 75% of the organizations want to be automated completely. However, only in the only 3% of them have been able to reach there, and 91% of the organizations are somewhere in between. The good news here is that almost all organizations, more than 95% of the organizations, want to move away from the manual stage and get into some sort of technology implementation, while majority of them are going into full, complete technology implementations when it comes to their HR processes and practices. Some of the major challenges which organizations are facing from their current HR technology uh, include customization. Most of the technology platforms which are available in the market are very much plug and play and do not provide a lot of customizability to the organizations. And as each organization perceives themselves to be unique in certain ways and are actually unique in a lot of ways, that becomes a major challenge. The user experience, because of multiple issues, some of them are infrastructure issues which are beyond the control of the organization also. But the user experience has also been a major concern around this. And the cost of implementation and maintenance has also come out as a major challenge in the current HR technology. In the survey, then we moved on to identifying some of the reward trends and seeing as to where these two, HR technology and rewards, marry and talk to each other, and what are the various ways which we can link this in. With this in mind, we looked at the top results response was around streamlining the entire increment process. Most of the rewards team is spending a lot of time in going through the entire increment process, where 2 or 3 months are dedicated, spent on the entire review, and a lot of inefficiency causes a lot of extra time spent during these processes. Compensation cost has been also a major priority, and the increasing cost in India is slowly making us reach a stage where cost advantage over the geographies in the west and the other competing geographies in the east also is slowly going away. So controlling that compensation cost is also very critical for the organizations, and complying to new regulations. We have seen some of them come up around, which specifically pertain to technology and data externally in the life insurance sector. So such new regulations and complying with them is also very critical for organizations. When we look at the overall efficiency and automation of the reward function when it comes to leveraging technology, 62% of the organizations are dissatisfied because of using Excel sheets, and the compilation of data and exchange of data causes a lot of errors. Organizations during their increment cycles have to spend a lot of time in tracking and following up with various stakeholders who are involved. This, when we look back, tied up back with one of the major HR priorities of empowering managers and involving them more in the overall rewards of an employee, becomes a challenge, because the more managers you involve without technology, it becomes a bigger challenge to interact with them. In an organization, 200, this is still a problem which can be curtailed. However, in larger organizations, as your headcount grows to 1,000 and more than 1,000, this becomes a challenge, a bigger and bigger challenge. Communication around the overall rewards is also a major challenge, and has been identified in the survey. When we looked at some of the data pointers which we collected around how do reward schemes function, and as per a calendar year or a financial year, and where do most of their times go, then the survey showed out that majority of the teams are working extra time and are working over and above their regulated hours during the periods of their annual increment cycle. And majority of this time which they are working on is spent in looking at very operational tasks like data management, and getting data from everybody and collating that data on Excel sheets and ensuring the overall correct data and stakeholder follow-ups. When we looked at what technology is being used from a salary increment cycle perspective, from a compensation management cycle perspective, we realized that most of the organizations are still predominantly on Excel. Organizations have moved away from Excel to some sort of an in-house technology or some other technologies, but still a lot of these processes do part of the overall increment process, and then come back to your then the comp teams are collating data internally again on Excel, and final output is again being calculated on Excel. So this is what we had on the overall survey finding. With that, you can post your questions around that, and we can take them up at the end of the session. With Jerry, am I visible?
Yeah.
My screen off?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. With that, I would like to invite Satish, as Jerry introduced. Satish has been in the HR space for more than 14 years. He has been part of large HR transformations from a technology perspective, and has a lot to share around that. Welcome, Satish. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So, Satish, before we, so how we can go about this, I think major point of views which you have around how the HR technology space will evolve in the coming years. We have seen a lot of movement, we have seen a lot of new tools coming up, but how do you perceive it moving in the next few years?
Right. So, interesting question. I think how I look at it is, if you really look at the new era of HR technology, which is often referred to as the Industrial Revolution 4.0 by even by the recent published publishers by like Deloitte, right? So there's a significant change in terms of behavior of demanding workforce, especially majority of the organizations being millennials, who are more inclined towards automation, intelligence, and connecting the dots between people and business. The kind of rolls up of having multiple platform, which is an integrated solution that we have seen in the past, I think that's what is really changing that I've seen over the last couple of years. With this, you will actually see a lot of companies are moving towards having, from a single HRMS solution to what really demands for my specific areas within the business. I think that's a change that I see really in the HR technology space. I think people who are on the webcast would also see the emergence of newer solutions. They all would have evaluated multiple solutions, which are probably only for talent management, only for workforce solutions, or only for, say, rewards management. There will be multiple solutions. So these demands and are possibly due to the emergence of cloud-based solution that's coming in, smaller tools that are addressing deeper talent problems, and the ability of tools itself in terms of integrating between multiple platforms, open APIs and those pieces, and overall the whole application of machine learning and artificial intelligence getting into the system. I think that's largely the changes that I've seen. I think gone days their organizations really look for the one-fit-all approach, where like the traditional methodology of selecting an HRMS based on the functionalities that it gives for the organization. And I think there's a human layer now kind of added to the same, which is fulfills the user experience and point of view, which also adds value in terms of adoption of technology by the workforce. So to give you an example, you could have a core HRMS system that's running in your organization. You could very well be using a different system for your recruiting, as long as the core system and the recruiting system talks to each other. I think organizations today are fine, and I really see that change. It's also reflective in the number of startups that coming in the space of, say, a recruiting solution, or in the space of a talent solution, or in the space of a reward solution. I think that's clearly visible. And in second part of the question, that how do I see this impacting areas, right? I think according to me, all areas will see an impact if we choose the right solution, is at the right phase of the journey. Because we were an 800 people company when 7 years back, and I joined Flipkart, right? The solution that I used to work then is not the same after 7 years that works in Flipkart. The processes get matured. The solution should also be compatible in terms of accommodating those maturity of process. And it's all about making it meaningful. I remember you mentioning in the survey findings that most rewards professionals spending time on review process, which is still not largely automated. And in our context where I stand today, I can probably say that we spend more time in terms of building awareness in the organization about the philosophy of rewards. How do we do it? Why do we need to do this? I think the technology has come a long way. And hence, when we, for example, in the last engagement survey, when we asked people about how do they really look at fairness in pay, about 81% of organizations responded favorably, saying that they paid fairly. So it's a combination of how organizations drive philosophy and how your technology supports to drive that philosophy. I think those together really work. I kind of remember this example since you mentioned about that automation. I think the faster organization move into those automation journey, I think the faster they will see this impacts in. I think that's the kind of benefit that it's on.
Yeah. I think the things that you spoke is the one product fitting. We have seen in the market a few organized the service providers, the technology providers are moving into specific solutions for specific processes. In your point of view, and you have worked on multiple such implementations in your technology internally also, and you have sought and looked at and evaluated the technology actually also. How do you see some of the key decision points for organizations going into specific solutions?
I think your voice is breaking. If I understand the question, I think what are the key parameters that I look at in terms of choosing those solutions, right? Is that correct?
yeah, choosing specific solutions for specific products. Do you think organizations, specific processes, do you think organizations will want to move in that direction, or is a one for or an approach with organizations?
I think I would see there are more and more organizations would come into the bucket of looking for specific solutions for each of the area, because the way in which the whole the talent practice is evolving in the industry versus technology copying up with that, the large solution being able to deliver those, I think that's going to be a tough one. And this becomes more difficult for organizations which are in growth stage, because you where you start versus where you end up from a process point is not the same, because your process is also mature in that. Most of the large solutions will provide solutions which are in a mature state, right? What is solutions which actually in a way you can look at this the ability for solution to customize, right? So at the same time, if you're looking at smaller solution, their ability to customize, being flexible, ability to integrate with other applications, etc. If the smaller solutions can bring that to the table, I think organizations will definitely be interested. I think the challenges that we've seen in the past were largely around the solutions not being able to deliver some of these aspects. Hence, companies choosing the established large product, just giving the overall suit from an HRMS point.
Okay. When we talk about sharing data on cloud, Satish, a lot of organizations sometimes show apprehension around it. That's one of the key concerns of technology too. What are your views on this, having used a lot of cloud solutions in the past?
Yeah, I think the best way to explain this possibly could be my own journey at Flipkart. Yeah? So
yeah,
we are a company who was on a cloud system over the last 6.5 years plus, specifically on HRMS area. So the story starts like this, right? As a business, we have been on cloud maybe more than 7 years before, right? So typically, where we will have difficulty in convincing business leaders or CEO of the company in terms of moving into a cloud-based system, where the ask has always been on the other side for me of business asking on why are you guys on traditional system, and or why you rather we do not have a traditional system. It's more ask was about when choose a cloud-based solution, and there are a bunch of benefits that you get as part of being a cloud-based solution. So we've been in summary, we've been on cloud-based solution for 6.5 years. I think having said that, I think the main concern that HR folks typically have is number one is on data security, right? And for example, even for Flipkart context also, security is the paramount. But given that this is really the future, when we know about in years back, we thought that's probably the way for us to go is really cloud. And from a context on what cloud system would allow us to scale up or scale down in terms of more effectively than the traditional platform, I think that's one of the biggest strengths cloud systems bring. Plus the whole computing power, right? So, for example, we've grown from an 800 people company to, today, including our temporary workforce, we go kind of 25,000 plus people today organization. So, hence the ability to really scale the computing power that offers the cloud would offer, right, versus a traditional system. The ability for it to expand, the ability to run machine learning, AI, etc., on a cloud-based platform is far impactful than in a traditional system. Now, in terms of security, let me also give you on how probably organizations also look at addressing this. Right? It's also sometimes it's about building capability internally, and for an organization like us, where millions of customer data is protected by our own application security team, it was actually an easy one for us to get into this journey, because all our application which comes in the HR space, all of them actually go through a thorough test by our app security team. So, in fact, when we started working with smaller players, they really benefited from this team. This team not only called out the security gap on the product, they also told them how do you kind of address in terms of fixing it. So that's the case with us, because we had a team internally. But today, the space have evolved so much that you also have service providers or organizations today that support you only on application security related matters externally. So organizations could even leverage, and that not anymore for me is a concern that organizations worry about. Then the second part of apprehension comes mostly around can I customize? Can the practices that I have can be, synced exactly in the same way to the application that I bring in? Right? So those are typically the questions that come in. But I think cloud-based systems actually offers a lot more flexibility when it comes to customizations than the traditional systems. The reason being, the cloud systems have multiple clients. While the instances of this could be different for different companies, the learning that they bring as a solution, because hundred or thousands of companies being on the cloud and they learning from each of them, I think rest of the companies actually leverage both from practice point and also from the security standard or anything else on data leakage or prevention of data to any of those pieces that you really look at. I think each of the companies and for them as customers bring learning to them, and the rest of the customers actually leverage that. So that's how I look at it.
You spoke about how the has grown from a 800 people organization to 25,000 people organization. Why you have been there? With that, you have been able to manage comp and actually implement some technology around it. What were some of the key areas or key must-haves you had while you developed all of this internally?
Okay, so I think clearly from a solution point, in the early part of the journey, I would say one, can the solutions really scale when we start building at the stage? Because we do anticipate on a 2-3 year journey. Can the solution really do everything for in my 2-3 year journey? And what is very important here as HR professionals, I think you having a view and vision to that 3-year journey is extremely important. Because if you're trying to do things on the go on a technology solution, that may not be a appropriate thing to do. So you're having a view on where do I want to land up in 2-3 years of timeline? How do I build practice over year, and hence can the solution really cope up with it? I think that's number one. Secondly, even an industry like us, where the industry is extremely dynamic, so as that would be reflective in the people practices as well. So in a dynamic industry like ours, how flexible or how agile the solution is. Can they switch over in the roadmap of 3 years if we switch over something or our philosophy approaches changes in the middle of the cycle? Can they really adapt to that change? I think that's this change could be of external dynamism. It could also be an organization like us where we kind of really encourage fail fast as an attitude, where if we launch a practice and things don't work for us in the initial month, and if we're revisiting and the approach or framework changing on the practice, can the solutions really cope up with that? I think these really are the factors. Of course, the security is the other piece that which I mentioned about, that we really worry about, concern about, because this is the place that employee data also gets stored. Those are pieces that we really look for when we look for a solution like which are specialized or solving something in a specific area.
Yeah. Okay. And also, as a closing thought, what are your thoughts on some of the major roadblocks, or if you want to look at it differently, some of the major win areas which HR professionals see or will see in the next 2 years in terms of making decisions on HR technology or implementing technology at their workplace?
You may have to repeat that question. I could barely hear that, Nashita.
Yeah. So my question was more around what are the major roadblocks or in the major areas which are the decision points which are there from easing the HR technology implementations for HR professionals currently?
Okay. So I think this is more or less is going to be a repetition of some of the points that I spoke about actually, because the roadblocks are largely on about how do I choose a solution. It starts with the right. So it's, and how do you ease it? I think choosing solution should always be dependent on the ability of those solutions to adapt to the processes or philosophy that you have. It should never be the other way. You can't have a technology solution in place and then you're trying to fine tune your practices according to the solution. I think that would be a really bad place to be in. I think what is most important is ensure that the solution can deliver all your philosophies, approaches that may have taken years for you to build in an organization, and it's working well. Can a solution really adapt to that? I think that's the first one. The second piece is about, can the solution really in the process of implementation, in the process of doing or implementing or bringing automation in the solution in a organization, can the solution really have, including not just the solution, including the people behind the solution, have the ability to learn and make changes in the course of time, right? It could be about this could be in the form of the solution being flexible to adopt those changes or learnings, or getting adapted to some of the learnings that the organization bring. I think that's really one portion. I think the second piece, that when you really choose, I think one concern comes is the ability of these small solution to integrate with other application within the organization, because most often that's another big challenge. I think this is something that HR professionals will need to really validate, the ability of these systems to talk to each other, to what extent it can talk to each other, and hence how to use the data that come from the system, etc. I think the whole integration aspect is other piece that HR professionals should look at. And the last but the most important one is about the security standards that the tool brings in. It shouldn't be a case that anybody else and everyone can open your system and see what the information lying there, and that meeting all the security standard, especially when you choose a cloud solution. I think that's something that you should really look forward.
Thanks a lot. My key takes from this how one solution that makes the process better and internal will be suited when it comes to specific solutions, especially when we're talking about rewards and such technology. Also, when we are trying to make decisions as HR professionals into the space, speed of execution and how customization, how much tool can be customized to your person is yes, if the aspect of security and data privacy on a cloud solution remains very critical. I hope. Am I audible clearly? Sorry.
Yeah, okay. It's better. Yeah.
So with that, I will request you to stay on the webcast for a while. We will have questions towards the end of the session. With that, I would like to talk about. Thank you, Satish. With that, I would like to talk about our journey, how we on around a year and a half back, were looking at what are the various HR technology solutions which we can bring to our existing large client base in India, and we. Being primarily into the reward space, looked at what comp management tools we can bring in, and we introduced Remlink Aon tool in India. I will talk about the tool and some of the features which Satish also talking about his experience from comp management of an organization which was 800 employees all the way up to 25,000 employees. I will also take you through some of the salient features of the tool. So Remlink is a tool which caters to increment cycles of an organization. So the end-to-end increment cycle, starting from budgeting all the way up to the letter communication for the employee on Remlink. Just give me a second and I will take you to the tool. Jerry, just to check if my screen is visible, if the window is visible. So when we were designing this tool, some of the key decision points and the key takeaways that we wanted to give to our clients was the ease of customizing and configuring the tool. Although the tool is a hard-coded tool, but we have got various customizations which are available and designed keeping the Indian structures, the Indian way of managing comp in mind. So that was one decision point. Another thing which we kept in mind while doing this was the overall ease of implementation and keeping the cost aspect down. Thirdly, we looked at how can we engage and involve more managers into the tool, and hence we have got some functionalities which are specific to the manager. And around keeping a track of, once you empower all these managers, how do you keep track of all of these managers, and how do you leverage that in the best way without having to collate all the Excel sheets and without having to call up the various managers and going to them and tracking with them as to where the process is reached. Lastly was around the communication bit. From communication point of view, there are we have been able to set up on the tool, which is very easy to use. We'll talk about it. So as the COM team, your access, the tool has multiple accesses, as you can see on the screen. There are manager accesses, there are approval managers, which are a level higher in the organization. There are HR manager accesses, which will be given to your BP HRs depending on your process. And there's a system administrator access. System administrator is the main access on the tool. This is where all the various setup of the tool, this is the access which lies with the COM team. This is where the entire setup of the tool is done. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see there are multiple functionalities which we have got here on the tool. I will take you through some of the key features. I will not have enough time to go through all of them, but I'll take you through some of the key features. Takes an import in terms of a CSV file. There are multiple types of imports available. Some of them are visible here in the demo site. There is employee data, which is the base data which goes into the tool. The entire cycle is done. There is midpoint data. This is any kind of ranges which you are using for compa ratio calculation and considering, be it market ranges or internal ranges, that can be imported. Any historic data which you want to import on the tool, which is a key for decision making for the managers, can be imported on the tool too. There are 2 or 3 options of importing data. You can upload data directly, or you can, if the file is large, you can plug it in for upload and you can come back and the tool will give you information once the file is imported. The entire change in the data, the entire upload of data, once it goes on the system, after that is monitored on an audit trail. And import history is one of the ways to look at that audit trail of importing data. There are other reports also which are visible. I will take you through some of them towards the end. Another feature which is more around the data validation as to what has been imported is around org chart. This basically, the input to the tool takes in managing reporting relationships. So your one-level senior reportee to each employee is uploaded on the tool, basis which the tool forms a org chart. This org chart can be viewed here, and in case there are multiple issues with the org chart, it needs to be re-uploaded. However, you can simply drag and drop here also, and that will allow you to change the manager of a particular employee or change the positioning of a particular employee within the org chart. There are multiple operational aspects of the tool, which are the next few items which are there. These basically help you govern the tool and provide access to various users or change some of the data which has been uploaded. There are options like if you have multiple rows of data which need to change for the employees, then it is more advisable to re-upload the data, which does not necessarily mean uploading fresh data, but it can talk about just updating some of the information on the data which is already on the tool. But if there are only 1 or 2 changes to be made, you can go to data amend, change login details, assign roles, and all these functionalities are primarily around administrating various users, various managers, BPHRs on the tool. One of the salient features of the tool is around process maintenance. This is one screenshot which gives you the entire view of what is happening in the organization. Our demo site has a fewer number of employees, so you're not seeing large numbers here. But in case you have got 100, 200 managers who have access to the tool and are providing employees inputs for various employees, what you see on the top here is various stages at which the tool is there. A lightning bolt, X means that the process is not yet activated. A lightning bolt means that the process is activated, but inputs are pending from the managers or the approval managers. Orange tick means that the process is started by the manager, but it has not yet been closed, or has been submitted by the manager, but has not yet been approved. A green tick means that the process is done, and so that's pretty. So if you will see here, there are two managers who have not yet completed the review PRP process. All you have to do is simply click on this two, and you will get a list of the managers who have not completed that particular step down below. So you can drop them reminders via clicking on this, selecting their names, and there's a row which gives you access to write mails to them. The mail will go from a central ID, and you can request them to drop them reminders via here. You can administer reactivating if some manager has completed the process and has done some error in it and wants to change it, and there's a genuine request. They can request you, and you can reactivate a particular process for them. You can set up notification rules, which are used in two ways. It is used, you can set up rules which will help you send reminders to people from time to time. Like one we have set up already here is a step due to finish, which will be around the step of recommend remuneration. This is a step which is available to the managers. 2 days before the process is finished, the manager will receive an intimation that you have to go and complete the particular process for the particular employees by this date. So, in addition to that, there you can set up rules which will send mailers out from the tool automatically to approval managers, intimating them that a particular step has been completed by the manager. Whoever is the next user, it can be sent. If the BPHRs are involved in a particular step and need to close something on the tool, you can set up a rule here. We spoke about some involving managers on the tool. So what I will do is I'll take you to a manager access on the tool. We have set that up in the same user on the demo site. If you will see the overview for the manager is slightly different. This will be the only screen which will be visible to a manager. Here, review PRP is more around consolidating the performance inputs on the tool. Recommend remuneration is the main feature. I will take you there. The lightning bolt here shows that the step requires some inputs from this particular manager. If you will have a look here, you can see that the first screen gives an overall budget which is lying with the manager. So the overall budget with the manager is 13,79,154 rupees, out of which he has spent 3,79,000 and around 10 lakh is still remaining with him. What we have set up here on this is that there is a merit increase which is there, which has come from the matrix. I will show you how the matrix and the budget are set up in just a bit. Then there is this is the matrix adjustment, which has come as a 4% of his total cost, which is there. However, we have given some flexibility to the managers to change it. Now, if I change this number to say 2 lakh, I will get an intimation here that this much change is okay to be done. However, if I change this to 20 lakhs, you can see that what was a green tick here has changed to red, and over here also. These are the traffic lights on which the entire governance of the tool is done. So as the COM team, you will come up with guidelines as to what are the various changes and the flexibility which a manager has. For example, you will say that if an employee from the matrix is getting 8% increase, you will allow the manager the flexibility to go up to 10% on his increase. So he can increase it by 2%. But if he does so, he has to give a reason behind it, which will be collated here. If you will see, there's an amber light. It will trigger off an amber light for which he will have to give a business case, which will go to his manager for approval. And only when the manager approves it, it will go ahead. Or you can set up a red light, which will say that beyond 10%, for example, in the same case, 8% is the merit increase. 8 to 10% the manager is allowed to do with an amber light on. However, 10% and above the manager is not allowed to do at any cost. Parallelly, you can write business rules here, which we'll talk about as to what are the various reasons. So the reason for red light here is that you have exceeded your allocated budget. Please adjust your recommendations in order to proceed. So the rule here says that you cannot go beyond the particular budget which was set for you. So these are some of the features which are available. A similar workflows goes into the PPHR and the approval manager post this. I'll take you back to the system administrator login and I will show you as to how do we set up these REM budgets. If you click on the set REM budgets on the left, you will see that in this demo, we have got a configuration which is allowing us to set up budgets by various business lines. So we have got for business support, the support functions, we have got one set of budget which can be set up. And for business divisions, we have got level-wise budgets which can be set up. So these are the various cuts by which you can spread the budget. You can also spread the budget by various managers. You can give them some discretionary amount which they can use, and they have the flexibility to distribute it within the organization, within whatever set of business rules you have defined, whatever set of guidelines have been defined by you. Next up is, once the budgets are done, how do you distribute that in a matrix? In matrix, we can set up as many matrix as we want on the system. So over here, we have, for example, set up X number of matrix. Matrix 1 is tagged to a particular cut of the budgets which we saw in the previous screen. Post which, there are two ways in which you can distribute the budget. The first way is the top window, which you can see here, which I'm highlighting right now. This gives you a relative distribution of budget. So this distributes your entire budget in these ratios. For example, the ratio, if somebody in the zone 2 between 80 to 120 compa is meeting expectation, if he gets 1 rupee, then somebody in the zone 1 between 0 to 80% compa and a far exceed expectation gets a 4 rupee increment. So this is the ratio distribution. Parallelly, if you don't want to do a ratio distribution and if you want to go with absolute numbers, you can use the table below that. This will give you the overall spread of the budget and how it has been distributed. And same can be run on the matrix here. Once the matrix is run, the tool becomes accessible for the managers to go and see and provide an input. I will also show you this. So we spoke about those guidelines and rules in the previous screen. This is where how you will set up the overall structure. So what we have been able to do is, because the Indian structure is very complex and there are multiple anchors of pay which are there, you can configure them here. And these are the various cuts which are there. For example, you can say that basic HRA, child education, Sodexo, and leave travel, all of this is a part of the base salary which is there. So it is deducted from salary, can be base salary. Suppose you want to next year take away Sodexo and make it a part of the overall adjusting figure, you can move it down here, or you can just unclick on the Sodexo. You can first change that the structure is going to change, and post which you can move out. In the new structure, you can move out Sodexo, and this will, whatever value is there in the Sodexo as per the rules which have been set up on the tool, will move to the balancing figure. In addition to this, we have got setup letters, which is a very basic way of using letters and paragraph by paragraph for particular employee segmentations. You can set up these rules. Before I end this, I will quickly take you to some of the analytics and reports which we have on the tool. I'm not going to use it because that might be slightly slow. I have already downloaded a report and I will take you through that. Jerry, if you can let me know once this file is visible.
Yes, Nakshatra, we can see it. Perfect.
Okay. So I have limited view of the file because of multiple screens being open, but so this is one of the reports which has been downloaded. I think this report talks of how the budget has been spent by each cost center. Sorry, I'm not able to guide the mouse on the screen because it's not actually visible for me right now. But yeah, so that's broadly what we have from the demo perspective. Really, I think we are running out of time and we can open the questions now.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay. The costs incurred in using for various HR processes in the organization.
Jerry, I can't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, it's better.
All right. Okay. So one of our audience members questioned Sriram Chakrapani asks, can you speak about incurred in using multiple solutions across various HR processes? Perhaps incurred for using a solution like this that we talk about right now.
Jerry, I think when you're moving, the voice is breaking. You want to kind of copy that on the chat or?
All right. Yeah. Let me do that.
Can you please speak about cost? All right. So in my experience, from a cost point, it wouldn't differ, between having a multiple solution versus, a full suite HRMS. I think I've in fact seen the cost to be on the better side if I kind of managed it, looking at for the right processes and supported by a core system. I haven't seen it to be way too different. Yeah. Or the other way of putting, even if I had gone extra, I think the ROA has been significantly higher than that.
All right. Okay.
So the second question I see is, we are living in the era of companies where there is a rise in gig workers and employees work in remotely. Can systems support such situation? How do you manage their payroll and benefits? Oh, actually, we have employees, present across India, and maybe in some, at least about, if I remember correctly, in a large number of 30% of India pin codes, there will be a Flipkart employee. Okay, so and in most places it could be just one employee, and it's all managed centrally. So the question is, how do you manage the payroll, benefits, etc.? It's all managed by a team centrally. So, and systems support those journey, including they having access on mobile or on their own desktops, in all that way, including we have system today implemented in the delivery hubs across India where their own attendance to everything comes into a central system. Yeah. So technology does support to manage people at remote.
Yeah. The next question is from Nitin, and he wants to know, is there a limit on how many matrices we can create for budgeting, etc.?
I think this is question much for Nakshatra.
Nakshatra, are you on mute? We are unable to hear you.
Sorry, I was. Yeah. So Nitin, as I was saying, there is a limit on budget cut. You can be a budget depending on the number of employee segmentations you want to have. We have done as little as 1 to as many as 90 for various organizations in our implementations till now.
Right. Okay, so we have another question, which is about the role of C&B leaders. What is the role in this evolving advent of technology? We need to remember, I mean, there's a flood of new technology every day. What does an HR leader really need to look at? Say, if you had 3 things to look at, what should they look at when they're examining new technology?
Yeah, I think like I mentioned in the conversation, one clearly is about a C&B leader need to have a vision and journey of the philosophy of rewards and where do you want to land it in the next 1-2 years or 3 years or whatever that timeline and the journey. I think that clearly has to be articulated first. Right? Once your journey is clear to you and you know what technology supports that needed in the journey, then you look for a solution that can really take you through the journey and not just for today. Yeah, and that the subset of that comes on flexibility on the solution. Can they handle scale? Does this bring security standard, etc. From that's largely from a technology point, but I think the flexibility, adaptability will be key in that journey of 2-3 years that C&B leader need to do. And again, the overarching theme would be about the philosophy is defined first, and the technology should be supporting the philosophy, and never the other way.
Yeah, perfect. So another question is around communicating openly and honestly to employees. I think the question is, let me just read it out. How can technology be instrumental in communicating openly and honestly to your workforce about pay? I think this is a much more general question, but in case you want to answer that. But this tool that you showed is up to the managers, right? Like the line managers and supporting the line managers.
Yeah. So it, from a point of view, it enables both line managers and encourages clear communication to the employees. From the philosophy around and what should be thought process, I think I'll invite Satish to answer that.
Yeah, I think see the question. It's actually a dilemma of the organization maturity and what employees and leaders bring. How matured are your processes to support really drive these philosophies? If you ask me today, I think we are in somewhere in between at Flipkart. So, for example, we don't tell an employee what's the compa ratio that he or she stands, but people fairly know at approximately at what bracket do they fall in, and managers are made capable in terms of doing that communication to an extent of giving them scripts, videos, and different modules to really enable them to drive that philosophy. Because at Flipkart, at least we don't believe that rewards can drive that across the organization. So it's about building that capability in the organization, especially leaders and people managers, in terms of having that conversation about where are they placed, what's the philosophy, how does the increment work, what does it mean, and where do you stand in a compa? What does a journey from a compensation point means if you spend 1-2 years on a role? Okay, what does it mean when you in an organization like us where people move constantly or getting promoted in a time span of 2-3 years, right? How does the comp journey hence mean? I think building those awareness with people and when you are at a stage where you are very confident that people manager are the one who can really lead this conversation, I think your transparency can go to an extent of telling an employee what's the compa ratio is.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, I think that's about the questions that we had. Thank you, Satish and Akshat, for sharing great insight. With that, we'll wrap up today.
Thank you.
And any further questions, we will give us to share insights offline. Before we close, just a small announcement. So the rewards technology trends report available at the end of the month. We would like to thank our webcast speakers for sharing the information today. You can also provide your feedback at the chat section. Stay tuned for more such exciting sessions. That concludes our today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Mr.